From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBICD PrimeTime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. And it is time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles. And man, oh man, it is coming fresh off of the NFL bet exchange and everything like that. And man, had a lot of fun talking NFL. So let's go ahead and pick up where we kind of left off at. We didn't get to talk Chargers that much because we had Chargers Lions, but last night the Chargers did dominate on primetime for the second week in a row. They wound up getting themselves a very, very resounding victory on Monday Night Football. It was pretty much a snoozer. Let's keep it real. There wasn't that much offense on either side. Defense was really the star of the show in this game last night as well. You had Justin Herbert, who probably had a season low, but he probably had his most effective game, I think, when it comes to leading his team and keeping his team intact and keeping guys' mentality right and taking advantage of when they were able to force turnovers and then turn those turnovers into points. Joey Bosa, big strip sack. It wasn't a sack, but a big strip that he had, but it was so funny the way they did it. He absolutely dominated the tackle on that play. Then he goes up and just slaps the ball out of Zach Taylor's hand. So that was pretty funny in itself. Chargers were able to get an easy fumble recovery right there for that sequence. And also, Khalil Mack shows up. He gets himself in the mix as well, too, and strips. And he had an even prettier strip of Zach Wilson. So, the Chargers were on their A game on the defensive side yesterday. And as I was telling Jeff during our show, that people have to understand that front seven of the Chargers is really good. And this team in the Chargers, the only significant game where they really got beat soundly was in the Chiefs game, and they had an opportunity to win that game several times. They just let it get away in the fourth quarter. They wind up losing by 10 points it was, but that's the only game they've lost by double digits this year. And it was a game that they were still in most of the majority of the game. And you felt like they could win this game as well, too. And so this team right now should be kicking itself because they should be 7-1. Because literally they've been in every single game. Every game. And I think the only game they did not have a lead in was the Chiefs game. Every other game, they've been right there at the cusp of winning. It's nuts. And this team should tell themselves that, we got plenty of time, man. And being 4-4 right now is probably one of the best things you could be. Not having a bye anymore, being able to play now the heart of your schedule. You got Detroit coming up on Sunday. You got Green Bay coming up after that. And then you got the big one with Baltimore on the 26th of November. And I'm talking about all games left for the month of November, for this month. And then, in December, that will tell the tale of this team, the final 6 weeks of the season. But these 3 weeks right here are probably going to be the only time where the Chargers can afford to lose 2 out of 3 or possibly, win 2 out of 3. But the Chargers have an opportunity to win all 3 of these games because that's just how good they are. I don't care what anybody says. This Chargers team is the gift and the curse in the NFL at this point. This team is 8th in scoring. But their biggest pet peeve is they're giving up a lot of points. They're giving up 21.8. They're 21st in the league. Yards per game, 13th. Passing yards, 9th. rushing yards. This is something that needs to be fixed, but in that category, they're 21st, and you still have Eckler. In sacks, they're number 2 in sacks. This is what's making this Charger team still relevant, that this defense really has to rely on a great pass rush because they're not getting a lot of interceptions, but they are getting a lot of fumbles. And that's one thing that getting a lot of sacks can get you. This team needs to just stay focused. They have their next big game coming up. Green Bay is a wild card game, a game that you could be looking at your next game after that when you play Baltimore back in LA, because that's going to be a game in LA as well too. So this month is going to be another jam-packed, exhilarating month for the Bolts. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. And this team, to me, is on the rise. Be ready for the NFL rankings tomorrow morning that I have for you guys. I know I missed last week, but I told myself, no, don't worry about last week. Let's just get them through every few weeks. We don't have to do it every week. We can go ahead and do it through 10 weeks, check mark weeks and things of that nature. But you guys will be fairly surprised, and I hope that everybody figures out why I'm going in that direction. But all in all, though, the Chargers did exactly what their fans have been envisioning them to do over the last 2 weeks, and that's dominate. That's making sure that you don't have to be in these three point wins, 3-point losses, 2-point losses, 1-point losses. You should have went for it on 4th and inches, blah, 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 blah. None of that. Just an easy peasy game for the Chargers, because this is really how good this team can truly be when they're clicking on all cylinders, but especially when this defense is at their absolute best. So with that, let's go ahead, move forward, jump into our next topic, which is going to be the NFL MVP race. And I can't wait to talk about this. In my eyes, I have 5 guys right now, and it might not be the same 5 guys that you got, but you know what? At the end of the day, I have eyes too, and these are the 5 top players in the NFL. And no, I do not favor the quarterback. I favor who I see as the most talented players. So this might be more regulated to the top 100. But all in all, though, I would say this. In number 5 right now, since he's starting to cook a little bit more and he's looking really good doing it, he's looking like pretty much the oracle for the Cincinnati Bengals at this point. And when it's all said and done, can Joe Burrow possibly say he's the best to ever be in the striped helmet? That's where we're at now with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's that good. I've been watching Cincinnati for a long time. I'm almost 40, and I've been probably watching them for a good 37 years of my life. And I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm not a fan of the Bengals at all, but, I'm very, in tune with them because, who I favor. So this Bengals team has probably their best talent ever. And this is a team that's been to the Super Bowl 3 times. But this group was ahead of their time and got to the Super Bowl. So really, in all senses of the word, they should be the second team in everybody's mind in the AFC, because this team is the team that previously went to the Super Bowl, and they've proven that they have what it takes to actually beat the Chiefs. Everybody else falls short to the Chiefs, but the Bengals have something on this team. They have some type of mental over this team, and it really shows up. And we can all say that the Chiefs got a little lucky last year when they were able to beat the Bengals. So when I look at everything here, I see that this Bengals team is led by the best possible quarterback that they've ever had. Fresh off of a 348-yard passing performance, 2 touchdowns, was sacked once, 31 of 44, 108.9 QBR. Since he got fresh, since he got healthy after the first 4 games of the season, nobody has been better than Joe Burrow at the quarterback position. Joe Burrow, as I said yesterday, when I did talk about them in the segment, they went ahead and he's thrown for 10 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's thrown for 2 interceptions, and he has a monster QBR right now as well, too. And he's thrown for over 1,000 yards in that process as well. So Joe Burrow is number 5 on my list when it comes to the MVP race. And then number 4 on the list right now is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has just been playing some really good football all season long. He's in the midst of a 5-game winning streak for his team right now as well too. They're fresh off of a bye week as well. So, he's feeling pretty good. This team started the season off 1-2. They went to England. Got right 2 in a row, haven't looked back since. They do have some credible wins on their resume, beating a first place Saints team, beating a first place Steelers team at the time they beat the Steelers. So they have they have credible wins here. And this is something that you do need to look at and look at it in a further scope. And that's because they have a natural born winner in Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence has finally turned the corner on being now an elite quarterback in the NFL. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but at this point in time, we can't say he's living up to the number 1 pick in the draft that he was a few years back. So when you look at this situation and you see his stats for the season, you got a guy who's thrown for 1,935 yards in total. He's thrown for 9 touchdowns and he has 4 picks. But he also is pretty good in the running game, going 216 yards on 42 rushes with an average of 5.1. This is something that's very vital to this team. And he's not scored any touchdowns in this regard, but he has been able to move drives due to this. But he's had a big lift with Travis Etienne having himself a career year right now, almost at 600 yards at this point in the season. And he scored 7 touchdowns as well, too. So Trevor doesn't need to do too much scoring of the touchdown. But in a leadership situation, in the way that things are shaping up for Trevor Lawrence, I know a lot of people probably don't have him in the top 5, but I do, because he's winning the games that you have to win, and he looks good when he's doing it. So that's number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my list, none other than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the defending MVP, as is. Patrick is having, I would say Patrick is number 3 because Patrick is having somewhat of a down year, in my opinion. I think that he's not playing up to the same, capabilities that he's had over the years. I think that, the ankle is still bothering him somewhat, but, when he runs, you really can't tell. But when you look at the numbers, 17 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this year, a little high on the interceptions this year. We're not used to Mahomes throwing this many picks, and he's still able to run that ball 6.1 on the rushing, and he's gotten himself no touchdowns this year rushing, but he's been able to move the chains, and he's been able to keep drives going forward. And you know what? The one thing that puts Patrick number 3 on this list, Patrick has been able to find so many receivers. I think that he's thrown the ball to over 20 receivers this year, and they've all been able to do something for him. Everybody, he's spreading the wealth, as I like to say. And that's one thing that's making him look really good this year, by spreading the wealth. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. He is number 3 on my list. And number 2 would be Mr. Tua. Tua has played exceptionally well. He might get a little biased because I was a left-handed quarterback as well too, and it's just beautiful to watch a left-handed quarterback when he is on his A game, and that's exactly what Tua is week in and week out. Yes, he struggled a bit against the Chiefs last week, but at the same time too, he's still one of the biggest threats in the NFL at the position. They're number 1 in scoring, 31.7 a game. They're number 1 in yards per game at 445. He leads the NFL in pass yards per game at 297 and has the most 300-yard passing games this year. They're number 2 in the rushing game this year as well, too, because they have a great passing game. And that's been able to be compliments to Tua. Tua's passed for 2,609 yards, 19 touchdowns to 7 interceptions this year. You would love for him to clean up the interceptions, but he has been on his game. And then, you know what? Tua has been able to move chains as well, too, but he doesn't do it as much as the others do, and he doesn't do it for a long game. We all know why as well, too. So, one thing he does need to clean up, though, is fumbling the ball. That's one thing that has been a problem for him this year. That's why I have him at number 8. That's why I'm at number 2. But all in all, though, for the doubters, for the haters, he has to be on your list as that dude right now. Seriously, because he's just that good. And it is what it is. And then number one is the guy sitting with the white jersey on the screen right now, Mr. Tyreek Hill. Yes, I know I did not add Lamar Jackson to this list. I feel like Lamar Jackson is right there in the top five. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be in the top five at some point this year. I just feel that at this point right now, a lot of the Ravens wins are coming from overall great team ball. You know what I mean? Lamar's doing his thing. He's doing what he's supposed to do, but the running game's helping him out a lot as well, too. And the defense has been the star this year. Let's keep it real. Because when that offense is lagging a little bit, that defense stays picking them up. They stay keeping them in the game or keeping the game very easy for the offense. So at this point right now, Lamar is the MVP on a lot of people's list, but he's not even in my top five yet. Yet. We'll be back next week to talk about this as well, too. But right now, Tyreek Hill is number one. I feel like he's the MVP of the NFL. He didn't have the greatest week last week, but just look at the numbers. They're absolutely incredible. He's pretty much unstoppable. You have to literally throw a triple team on this guy to really contain him. So he's doing what he's supposed to be doing and taking it to a whole nother level. And that's what's making this very special. And you got a guy, 69 receptions, 1,076 yards. This guy may be a 2,000-yard receiver this year and possibly catch 120 balls as well, too, because he's far from finished this year, barring injury. This guy will break a lot of wide receiver records this year. And if he winds up breaking Jerry Rice's record this year, I think that they really need to highly consider him as the MVP of the NFL. Because when you say MVP in the NFL, you want to say the guy that makes the biggest impact on his team for them to win games, the guy that really makes everybody else that much better on their team. And it's going to be Tyreek Hill. It's that simple. He's that great of a weapon. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on the MVP race for me for today. And next week, I'll have an update on the MVP list. Now, state of the Lakers. Lakers lose last night by 1 point. They should have been better. They should have took care of their business. The Lakers losing two in a row, that's not good. This is the first time that's happened all season, but the Lakers are still winless on the road. They're going to need to fix this situation and fix it quickly because they have a game against the Rockets, a team that's pretty lowly. And you know what? They are waiting on the Lakers. They possibly can go into that game and figure out a way to beat the Lakers because from what I remember, I think the Lakers lost to Houston last year in a close game where they kind of just were being too lackadaisical. LeBron didn't even play in that game. But, this year, I don't think they're going to have any issues with LeBron playing in that game. But, last night, a lot to be desired. The Lakers really should have won this game last night. That's what pisses me off the most is that they really had a game in their hands to win. AD was having his issues last night, but he finished up last night. He still played through it. He had nine points with 6 rebounds, but he'll be back on Wednesday. But he had a hip issue last night. Torian Prince wasn't as good as you wanted him to be. He only had 9 points. You got 12 from Christian Wood off the bench. You got 7 from Reddish, and then you got 4 from Matt Christie. So the Lakers being shorthanded, this is a bit of an issue. You got Gabe Vincent, who's out with a heel injury. We won't see him probably for the next 3 weeks. And then you have Jackson Hayes, who's out with an injury as well, too. And Rue's eye situation hasn't cleared up yet. Hopefully, he can get back on the court Wednesday because he's so needed right now. And also, you know what? You want this kid, Shafino, to get healthy as well, too. He's been injured the whole season as well. And then you got these G League players that they just literally are just having on the bench to clap it up for the team. So the Lakers, to me, did way too much last night with LeBron. LeBron playing 37 minutes, that is really not a part of the plan. Austin Reeves playing 40 minutes, that's a bit too much time on the court for Austin Reeves, even though he was fairly productive last night, and he actually was perfect from inside the 3 point arc, but he was had issues outside of it. He went 3 for 8. So, 10 rebounds, 23 points, that's something that you don't even get mad about. He almost had a triple double. But D'Angelo Russell got the boot last night. He got 2 technicals last night, back to back, and that was just really uncalled for. And he was shooting 60% before that happened as well, too. So there's just a lot of things. The Lakers could have been better. When I run down the stat line, Lakers got out rebounded 44 to 38. Also, assists 30 to 28 last night. Offensive rebounds 11 to 5 last night. Steals 11 to 6. So, there's a lot of things that just did not go the Lakers' way. The Lakers had 17 turnovers, but they forced 17 turnovers as well, too. Jimmy Butler, big game. Bam Adebayo, big game. Tyler Hero, big game. All their big three stepped it up and found and pretty much supplied 72 of the 108 points. Everybody else just needed to chip in a little bit, and they went ahead and got themselves a 1 point win last night. The Lakers should have won this game by 5 or 6 points. It was just a lot of slippage, a lot of mishap. But you know what? At the end of the day, they move on. They got a game in Houston on Wednesday night. The whole NBA is off tonight because it is election day. So pretty much they did make a promise to the powers that be that they would take today off. So we don't have any NBA tonight, but we do got college football. So you guys make sure to stick around. So when that does pop up, we can go ahead and talk about it because I do have MAC tickets for you guys tonight, and I also have college basketball for you tonight as well too. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and talk about some boxing real quick. And Adrien Broner wants Ryan Garcia fight. Does he have a real shot to beat him? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Adrien Broner had no idea that Ryan Garcia wanted to fight him or Golden Boy wanted to put together a fight with Adrien Broner. He never got the phone call to say that, let's get this fight together. They used Broner as a possible opponent. And I know that they would have loved to have Broner as the opponent because there's a storyline to it because of his relationship with Tank and because, he knows Ryan very well. He's always had some jokes and things like that for Ryan and stuff. But they got good rapport. They've spoken plenty of times, things like that. And pretty much they know each other. But at this point in time, like this picture right here, Ryan was young, AB's already established and everything like that. Everybody wants to be like AB at this point. And Ryan Garcia was more like a respectable fan, but now he's grown up a little bit. He's gotten a little besides himself, and pretty much he thinks that he can go ahead and eviscerate Adrien Broner. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people out there that feel like this could be a great step up fight for Ryan Garcia fighting Adrien Broner because Adrien Broner does probably bring the biggest name he's fought outside of Tank Davis. So this is something that Ryan needs to build the resume up with, and that's names. And, since he's a trash talker, AB is a trash talker, this fight can easily sell. This is like a dream come true for DAZN because this would bring a lot of attention to their network. It will bring a lot of attention to Golden Boy. It will bring a lot of attention to Don King, who's actually promoting Adrien Broner right now as well, too. And Don King actually probably was mentioning this months ago when he was talking about that AB had a lot of options. There was a lot of phone calls about possibly fighting AB and all that good stuff. And I think if you're able to make a deal, that deal can be made by Don King. So, pretty much this is a fight that I would love to see. I'm dead honest with you because I know this is an unpopular opinion, but if Adrien Broner just focuses 50 to 60%, and I'm telling you now, listen to me very carefully. He will park Ryan Garcia. He will embarrass this boy. Because if you think Tank got some boxing skills, Broner's boxing skills to me are much better. And Broner is a guy that really is a person that did achieve his goals. He's not wasted talent. He was a 4 division champion. Dude, Who else can say they're a 4 division champion? Regardless of Broner's flaws, Broner's demons, all that stuff, Broner is still going to the Hall of Fame because Broner has the resume. It does not matter. He has the resume. And there's guys who've done far less that are in the Hall of Fame. You know, the Hall of Fame is not built for the guys I like the most and the warriors of warriors. No, it's built for guys who were successful in the ring. And Adrien Broner was very successful in the ring. And Adrien Broner puts asses in seats. And Ryan Garcia needs to fight people that put asses in seats, not people that are tune-ups or people that are just really good at boxing, but they have no fanfare. No, you need to get with somebody like Adrien Broner, even if it's a fight that winds up being a one side to Ryan, you still got that credibility of doing that to Adrien Broner, who's a guy that many will believe on fight night has a real chance to win this. I'm telling you right now, bettors will back Adrien Broner in this fight with the idea that the old man will show the young man some tricks. And that's it. For sure. For real, for real. And you know what? I know this is probably going to get a lot of backlash, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. Okay. I know boxing, and a lot of guys say you do, but then you still don't look like you do. I'm telling you right now, Adrien Broner has a big time chance against Ryan Garcia if he's in the gym, focused, and not playing around on social media. If you put the Broner in there that fought Manny Pacquiao, he beats Ryan's ass. I promise you that, because you know what he did to Manny Pacquiao? He messed up Manny Pacquiao's vision in that fight. Manny Pacquiao can barely see. Okay, and that's because Broner scratched the shit. Broner's gloves destroyed his retina that night, so he fixed that issue, but it's still a lingering problem for him, and that's why a lot of his fights right now they probably can't be cleared in the U.S. because the eye issue, and you know, pretty much at the end of the day, Adrien Broner is going to give Ryan Garcia the best type of promotion that he needs for a fight, you know, for sure, for real, for real. I'm telling you, this will be fun. This will be a lot of fun. So let's see if Oscar goes ahead and tries to make this fight happen right now. You know what I mean? Because this is the right fight. You know, it's the right fight for uh Ryan, because the moment that he's able to beat Adrien Broner, then everybody will open up the line and want to have these championship fights with him as well too. Don't waste your time waiting on guys who are paper champions. Go ahead and fight guys that will help you make some money. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when I get back, we'll be talking the AP Top 25, Ohio State, the Big 12, and the MAC game of the night. So you guys stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capitals.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capital, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the AP Top 25. You guys already know tonight is the draw up for the CFP and everything like that. Nothing should pretty much change. Everybody was smoking last week. Maybe Georgia might get kind of pegged a little bit, but Georgia played against a one-loss team. And Missouri's actually playing some pretty damn good football this year. So you really can't hold that against them too much. You know what I mean? Michigan might have a bit of a gripe, you know what I mean, because they played nobody, but still, they're not going outside of the top four either. And then Florida State blew out Pitt. They, you know what? They may get moved out for a second because that Washington win was huge. Washington wasn't supposed to beat USC. Let's keep it real. That was the setup for USC to get themselves their signature win of the season. They just could not play any defense. That defensive situation is absolutely atrocious with this group. You know what I mean? It's unfathomable. It's just really uncalled for, in my opinion. I just think that it's just not good, But right now, Ohio State's still number one, Georgia's number two, Michigan's number three, Florida State's number four. I think that it will not change by that much. It just won't. It just won't. And if you do kick somebody out, you're going to kick out Florida State, and you would put Washington in there because think about it. Washington does have wins over ranked teams. They got to win over USC. They got to win over Oregon. And that actually does look a lot better to the committee than Florida State and them being back. Clemson, the close Clemson game kind of didn't age well because Clemson's not winning games, but they got a big win over Notre Dame. So that might be helpful in, the long run. But right now, you look at who these teams played, you will probably put Washington in over Florida State if you want to be a little petty. But I think that you're going to keep it intact because Florida State didn't do anything wrong. They won their game. There's nothing that is out of their control. But you have to look at who's played better, and Washington's played better. That's the whole thing. All right, so Washington 6-0. You got Oregon, who's 5-1, 8 in conference play, 8-1 overall. They would probably be a top four team right now if Oregon did not lose to Washington. You got Texas, who's 8-1 as well too. That Texas, we'll talk about this in a second about their CFP chances. Alabama 6-0 in conference play, 8-1 on the season. They do have the loss to Texas. I think that loss to Texas may keep them away from the top four this year because they're going to have to do more climbing than anything because I don't know if they're climbing over if you got Oregon and Washington sheeting out, they're not going to probably climb over them. Also, if you have Texas winning straight out, they're not getting climbed over either. And possibly Oklahoma might jump them again as well, too. Oklahoma's sitting at number 9, but they did lose 2 weeks in a row as well, too. So they're pretty much out of this thing, but they have credible losses. That's why you have them in their situation. Mississippi, on the other hand, they're kind of lurking right now, but Mississippi does have the loss to Alabama. So that's going to keep them kind of behind the 8 ball in a sense because they're not going to play in the championship game. Then you got Penn State, who lost to Ohio State. They're pretty much trying to play for a New Year's Eve bowl. You got Missouri, who I just said was a pretty good team. They're now number 12 in the nation, 7-2 on the year. They lost a very competitive game against Georgia last week. You got Louisville sneaky at 13, but they're just ahead of LSU, a 3-loss team, Notre Dame, a 3-loss team. You got Oregon State now number 16 after a good win over Colorado last weekend. They're 7-2. You got Tennessee, who's now 7-2 after a really good win over their rival last weekend in Kentucky. Then you had Utah smash City on Saturday. They went ahead and got right. They are now 7-2 on the season. UCLA had a real downer of a situation against Arizona. They really did not play well at all. They find themselves now 6-3, and they're probably going to be out of this group, but they got credible wins as well, too. That's the whole thing. And then you got USC. USC's probably not going to get bounced up out the top 25, but their chances of playing in a significant bowl game are starting to dwindle a little bit, and they might not even be Holiday Bowl worthy at this point. Kansas is it's just happy to be number 21 in the nation. Oklahoma State enters the top 25 after their signature win of the year, beating Oklahoma for the final bedlam as conference foes. Kansas State, they're coasting. They're 6-3 right now. And then you got Tulane and Air Force. These two teams are sitting at 24 and 25. Air Force fresh off of their first loss of the season, losing to Army by 20. And then Tulane has been really good all year except for the Ole Miss game. That's it. But they haven't really been able to make any traction or anything like that. And I wouldn't think that they would be playing in any, New Year's Eve bowl or anything like that. So the AP Top 25 will have we'll have the unveiling tonight, and we'll see exactly where we're at, tonight. But right now, I see the top four not really changing out. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and talk about, is Ohio State the best team in the nation, or is just the committee shining up the game? Well, with Ohio State, I feel like Ohio State, are they the best team in the nation? Maybe, maybe not. But I think right now, if you put Ohio State up against every top team in their conference outside of Georgia and Michigan, they beat them. If you line them up with Florida State, the way Florida State's had some close calls this year, Ohio State will probably beat them by 10 or better. Michigan, right now, when you look at it, I would say that probably Michigan has a little bit of the edge. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say Michigan has a big edge, because I know Michigan has this idea that they have some type of dominant thing going on over Ohio State because they won the last 2 years. But let's go ahead and rewind the last 20 years and see that Ohio State's beat them the last 18 out of 22 times they've played. So, Ohio State is still leading in the clubhouse when it comes to that. But all in all, though, the past is the past. The present is right now. And right now, when you look at it on paper and see the way that these teams won games, Michigan is leagues ahead of Ohio State right now, because Michigan hasn't had one close game this year. All of Michigan's games have been absolute blowouts, and that is not good for the recipe that's coming up the next 2 weeks. They got two of their toughest games before they see Ohio State. And then when they get to Ohio State, it's going to be in Ann Arbor. But the pressure is that much more crazier when the game is in Ann Arbor, because they expect them to be so dominant and so great that day that, it should be a great day for Michigan. But Ohio State wants to play spoiler this year, because Ohio State knows that they have the possibility of still being in the Final Four this year, because they have the strength of schedule to back them up. That's the whole thing. Michigan has to beat Ohio State. That's the whole thing at the end of the day. But the way that this thing is shaping up, you see that they quite possibly might sneak in two Pac-12 teams, maybe, but they're going to try to get a Pac-12 team into the Final Four. Let's keep it real. It's the final year of the Pac-12, and they want to send the Pac-12 out on a high note. And that's why you've had a lot of Pac-12 teams in the top 25 this year. So when you get the really good one, they can have an opportunity at the CFP. This is politics right here. But Ohio State's not worried about that. Ohio State's only worried about Michigan State this weekend, and that's going to be a tough game regardless of how anybody spins it, because Michigan State feels like they're a rival to Ohio State, and Michigan State has been a spoiler when they weren't expected to be a few times against Ohio State. And the way that this team is setting up right now, they ain't that great. They have an interim coach. You know what I mean? They have all the motivation in the world to be a spoiler on Saturday, because they have nothing to lose. That's the whole thing. Ohio State knows that. So it's going to be a really good game against Old Sparty. And Ohio State needs to really send a message in this one, in my opinion. They truly do need to send a message in this one to say that they are a dominant group, because a lot of people aren't convinced with McCord at quarterback. But McCord is just like Craig Krenzel, dude. These guys are game managers. They're playing with talented guys All they got to do is just not fuck it up. That's it. That's all the coach asks them to do. The Ohio State Buckeyes rely on the run game this year, and they rely on being physical. And then they got Marvin Harris, the best receiver in the nation. If you're gonna be stupid enough to stick him 101, he's gonna shred you all game long. And then you got Ubeka, you got Fleming, you got the freshman, you got a lot of good things going on with this team. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But Ohio State does have the target on their back, and we all just are getting ourselves prepared for the game. This one is going to be just as big as the game was a decade ago when you had both Ohio State and Michigan both coming in there at 1-2 undefeated. That was absolutely crazy with Troy Smith and Mike Hart. So that was that. If they are able to get to that point again, it's going to be absolutely bedlam that week and that weekend as well too. But with that, we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into our next, which is going to be the Big 12. Will not be a part of the CFP with any scenario. I just hate to say it, but after Oklahoma lost, you pretty much can just put a sock in the Big 12. You know, Texas, you want to say, oh yeah, the Texas has a really good opportunity, but Texas has to hop over like 3 teams to get here, and I don't see Texas sheeting out. I'm looking at their schedule right now. TCU is going to be a tough game in Fort Worth. It's going to be a really tough game. And then Iowa State is going to be just as tough in Ames because these teams are going to be playing up to those games. These are their Super Bowls right here. Texas Tech is probably the one game you know that they'll probably go ahead and win, but that's the one that you'll say to yourself, they may lose that one too. You know, you never know. But, you know, all in all, after the Oklahoma loss, they shook it off. They're still scoring over 30 points a game in their last 3. They blew out BYU. They had a close one with Kansas State last weekend, and they had a close one with Houston a few weeks back. So this is why I say I don't see them winning every game on the way out. You know what I mean? Because I just feel Texas is really, you know, a team that had to stay undefeated for their confidence to stay at that high level. You know what I mean? Because their team is really good, but their team needs boosters, and their coach is not really a high quality coach yet. Sarkisian was becoming that at Washington. Then he goes to USC off the love of being a USC coach and USC player and all this stuff and trying to be like Pete Carroll, blah, 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 blah. And then it all hit the fan and it just was a disaster. And so, you know, at the end of the day, Sarkisian just packs his stuff up, goes to Alabama. He gets reinvigorated by Mr. Saban, and then he finds himself with one of the best jobs in college football, coaching the Texas Longhorns. So, you know, he's brought this school back to relevancy. He knows the exact thing what to do to get the culture back to where you want the culture to be in Austin, and that's something that's going to be very good going into the SEC because now he showed that they can be big players and they will go right into being one of the top 5 teams in that conference. The conference needs Oklahoma and Texas right now to give them some new blood that can really challenge the old guards of the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, all that stuff. But Big 12 in general has became pretty much the AAC, okay? But a better version of the AAC with more high-end schools. But at the same time, too, this is a conference that has not done much this year. You haven't had many teams ranked, and you see where their teams are ranked outside of Oklahoma and Texas. You have teams that are right there in 20, 21, 22, 23. They're not anywhere else in the mix. And that's something that you do have to question because the conference isn't that good. This conference has tough games against the AAC and the Sun Belt this year, you know, and the Conference USA and stuff like that. So, you know, this is not a dominant conference this year. And they really did not look like a group that deserves to be in the CFP. Texas, on the other hand, probably does both the best, but they really are going to make Texas go through a maze to get here. And I think it's going to be tough on Texas to do that. And I truly do think that teams like Washington and teams like Oregon probably are going to win out, and they're going to play each other in the title game. That title game will settle who that fourth spot's going to be if somebody beats Florida State. But at the end of the day, you just know exactly how the politics work, and you know they want to get in there. Two teams from a Power Five conference that they feel is the best conference. And this year they're putting that on the Big Ten because the Big Ten did college football the biggest favor by being able to bring in the two biggest schools from California and the two biggest schools from the Northwest. So they're trying to reward the Big Ten for pretty much making the college football playoff a true reality. So, with that, let's go ahead and talk about the MAC game of the night. The MAC game of the night is going to be with the Ohio Bobcats going against the Buffalo Bulls. And it's funny, a lot of my family members went to the University of Ohio over in Athens, Ohio. And everybody should know Joe Burrow could have been the starting quarterback at Ohio if he just said, you know what, I want to start right away, and I just want to show that I'm a good guy, a good quarterback. He went to Athens High School. You know what I mean? He's from that town. And he easily could have been their starting quarterback. His father is a legendary coach in the state of Ohio. So it would have been crazy if Joe Burrow would have selected Ohio over Ohio State. And then possibly would he ever would have got to the NFL, because it's hard to dissect these quarterbacks in the MAC. But this year, they have a quarterback at Ohio who's absolutely league. He's a Sunday player. He might not be a starter right away, but if in time he could be a starter, because Rourke is an absolute gem. As long as he can stay healthy, he can be pretty much whatever he wants to be. This guy has thrown for 1,656 yards this year, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's been sacked 6 times, but he's been good. He's been really good. When you look at the numbers, he's had 2 300-yard games in the last 4 games. He had a game where he threw for 275 as well, too. And so this guy really goes out there and he really uses all of his weapons. And, only time he's bad is when there's a lot of pressure coming, but that's a lot of players. And he really bounced back really well because he had some issues to start the year. He got hurt against the San Diego State. He came back the next week. He struggled a bit against FAU, and then he helped them win a big game against Iowa State, and then came back around and cooked Bowling Green, was able to go 14 for 16 and threw for 3 touchdowns that day. He crushed them, threw for 300 against them. And Western Michigan, he did well, but Northern Illinois did have his number that day, forced 3 interceptions. He only threw for 159. And then, his last game, he threw for 313, a touchdown, but he was sacked 3 times. But it's okay, because Rourke is that good of a player, and he's the best player out there. So when you have the best player out there, it's going to be difficult on the road, on the home team, regardless of what they got. You got Snyder, who's decent. He struggled last game, but that was against Toledo. And then he struggled a bit against Kent State as well, too. But that's Kent State, and they figured out a way. This guy's best game this year was against Liberty, where he threw for 276, and his best game in the conference was for 232 against Central Michigan. And when I think about it, they beat Central Michigan down that day. So this team is really dangerous at home. So tonight, I think Ohio could pull it off, but Ohio's going to really have to fight in this game tonight. It doesn't look like that on paper, but this is the MAC. Things have changed. You can't look at their losses and say that this is a bad team, because their losses are usually in tune-up games against Power 5 schools. So that's why their losses look like that, because they're a popular tune-up. So pretty much this game is still a 50-50 game. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bulls to go ahead and cover that plus 7.5 tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But from there, we will go ahead and take our last commercial break. And when I get back, we will jump into talking tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. So let's go ahead and jump into our final segment, and that's going to be talking tickets. Your favorite subject, my favorite subject. Let's go ahead and get this money, dog. So pretty much up first, we have the CBB PrimeTime PK6, 59-1. A plus 18.5 on Stony Brook. They're going to be playing in Queens tonight at the Carnesecca Center or Arena or whatever they call it on the campus of St. John's. They will be playing against the Johnnies tonight, so I'm taking them with the plus 18.5. You got Iowa playing against North Dakota at the house tonight. Iowa is pretty much unbeatable at home. This is always a game that pretty much is a layup most times, but they are spotting them 20 points. So we do need them to be really good for us tonight. So yes, we have Iowa with the minus 20 tonight. Then we also have Northern Iowa with the plus 4 in their game against North Texas. So it's a battle of the North. So we're going to go with Iowa, the sharpshooters from Corn Country. So we'll see how it goes and see how it checks out. Then we got Auburn tonight, and probably what is the marquee matchup for Power 5 schools, because you have them playing against Baylor tonight. So it's a SEC Big 12 matchup. And we know it's polar opposites with the Big 12 in college basketball. They are the signature conference in college basketball as of now. You know what I mean? And then the SEC is more like how they are in the college football rankings, you know what I mean? But it's still the SEC. And you know the SEC is always going to get a lot of hype if they have some of the better teams in the nation. But if you don't have Kentucky killing it, really the conference becomes a little irrelevant as well, too. Then we have, as our dog of the day in college basketball, we have San Jose State. So let's go Spartans. Let's see if they can go ahead and get themselves a nice win over UCR tonight. That's who they're going to be playing. I think that's who they're playing is. No, they're playing Irvine tonight. So they're playing UCI tonight. And then we got Nevada, who's playing in a spot that really does favor them very heavily. They're playing against Sacramento State. So hopefully they can win this game by 15 or better. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But this is going to be pretty much a 60-1 ticket, and we move forward from there. We have ourselves the Ball State, Northern Illinois bets, and we have Ball State plus 9 tonight. I know a lot of people probably looking like, damn, Poppy, you rolling with them. But, you know, Ball State pulled off a great upset a few weeks ago. So, you know what? You can't sleep on this team because they play some of the best defense in the conference. So that's what I'm banking on. I think Ball State keeps this game close. I'm taking the plus 9. First half, I feel like it's going to be a low-scoring game. So I'm going to take the under 22 to see if that's going to really occur, because, you know, it's called dipping the toe. So we're going to dip the toe and hope for the best. Hopefully that pool is warm and not cold. So we move forward, and let's go ahead and jump into the first quarter, and it's going to be Ball State again with the plus 170. I feel like they're going to start fast in this game and try to make it a very conservative effort where defense is the star and then we just need to get a few points to keep it competitive and see where we go from there. Okay, we got NIU, Northern Illinois, under 26.5 team total, minus 115. So that's how much I'm banking on the under tonight, that I feel like Northern Illinois will not have a big offensive night tonight. They don't get more than 21 points to me tonight. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move from there. All right, we have ourselves now the Central Michigan, Western Michigan bets. Central Michigan is plus 135 tonight on the money line. Let's see if we can double up, because last week we had them at plus 205. They went ahead and cashed that ticket for us. Let's see if they can go ahead and cash another dog bet for us tonight, but this time as the road team. Then we have Central Michigan first half plus 2.5 tonight with the minus 110. And then we also have the over 12.5 with the minus 125 first quarter. And then we wrap it up with the plus one Central Michigan plus 120 adjusted line. And that's going to be our bet for the Central Michigan, Western Michigan game. We move forward and we have ourselves the Ohio Buffalo bets. And as I said, when I was talking about the MAC game of the night, I'm taking Buffalo plus 7.5. I'm also taking the over 21.5 plus 100 first half. And then I'm also taking Ohio first quarter minus 130, half a point. And then Buffalo over 17.5 plus 105. I expect them to throw 20 points on the board. I don't know if they win the game, because I know they're going to give up a lot of points tonight, but I think that they're going to make this more of a firefight than a 3 yards in the cloud of dust type of game. So there it is. There it is. Those are our bets for tonight. All college, like I said before, and that's going to be talking tickets for you. And we're going to be back tomorrow with the NBA. We're going to be back with some more college basketball. We're going to be back with more MAC action as well too. So you guys make sure to tune in for all of that. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving, and this is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, and I am gone.